Hello, and welcome to Tier Nerd. This is another tier list. Once again, this time I've ran out of big franchises to use. I already did Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Fire Emblem, and Saga, and those are the biggest franchises I've played. Um, now, there are some franchises that are, you know, oh so big, like Tales, but I haven't played very many games, so I can't, I can't make a separate video on that. So instead, now I have to combine franchises together into one video. 'Cause I think you should at least have maybe 8 games for it to be a useful video. So this time around, I'm doing Shadow Hearts 1, 2, and 3, and the Shin Megami Tensei games that I played. So there's 5 of them. I played Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. I played Nocturne, and then Persona 3 and 4. There's a lot of other Shin Megami Tensei games that I just never got around to playing, and I'm sure they're amazing. And I've played a little bit of them, maybe like a little bit of Persona 1, and I never got around to playing Persona 5. There's a lot of games like I'd like to play, but just never got around to. And anyway, still a solid franchise. Just from the 5 games I played, I can say it's a solid franchise. Shadow Hearts, 3 games, pretty good franchise too. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start with Shadow Hearts. So I'm going to start with Shadow Hearts 1. Um, yeah, and so it's a pretty interesting game. Kind of old, so it's very interesting, like just the characters and the storyline and how it's like an alternate world, alternate early 1900s story. Um, I'm not a huge fan of the Judgment Ring system though, and I kind of cheated a bit with save states sometimes, but so I don't really like systems like that too much. But other than that, it's a pretty decent game. Um, kind of weird and creepy sometimes, but decent game. I think I'll put it in B for now, and we'll see where I put it later. Shadow Hearts 2, I liked a lot more. I think I'll put it in A tier. I think I'll put it in A tier. Yeah, it's a pretty fun game. Kind of easy, kind of broken. You can make your characters very overpowered, but I just like the graphics, and it's a it just does everything the first game did a lot better. A very interesting storyline. I really like the music. Um, yeah, it's just a very interesting game. Um, Liked it a lot more. So, but yeah, once again, I'm not a huge fan of the Judgment Ring system. And then finally, we end up with yeah. I mean, like, yeah, the main character is just great. Like Yuri, Yuri is an interesting character. Um, and then, but now Shadow Hearts 3, you have a completely new, different character. Different, everything is a little different. Still Judgment Ring. Um, they increased the difficulty over the second game because the second game was pretty easy. Shadow Hearts Covenant was pretty easy. So for Shadow Hearts, 3, they made it a bit harder, and I understand why they did that, but the game itself, not very fun, just kind of weird. The main character is just not very cool. He's not a very interesting guy, and just the whole, just a lot of the characters are just weird. They're not very interesting, to be honest. They're kind of weird. Um, Storyline is just different. I just don't like the setting as much as Shadow Hearts Covenant, for example, and just the cast is just not as good. And the storyline's just weird and very cliche, and just yeah, it's not good. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. The battle system's still decent, but yeah, the third game it's kind of lacking. In fact, it's probably the worst game in out of these games here, but even though it's still a decent game. Now, what Shadow Hearts and Persona and Shin Megami Tensei have in common is that they're very dark. So these are all very dark, kind of morbid games. Very dark, not generally not happy endings. Like these games don't. end on a happy note. Usually, they're pretty dark. So like Digital Devil Saga 1, I'm just a fan of the SMT system, just the whole leveling up and the fusion and just the variety and the difficulty level. These games are tough. Like SMT games are pretty tough generally. It's an acquired taste. Very for RPG veteran. Like if you're a veteran and you want something tougher, Atlas makes good tough games, and SMT games have always been pretty good. So I really enjoyed Digital Devil Saga. Like I think I would at least put it in A tier. I don't know if I think it's higher than Shadow Hearts Covenant. Like I'd probably say it's probably better than Shadow Hearts Covenant. So I did enjoy it. I'd say at least A tier. Honestly, like SMT games in general are pretty good. So I think I'd put it in A tier. It had a lot of fun with the first Digital Devil Saga. The secret boss, I'm not going to spoil it, but the secret boss in post game, man, it's super tough. Like probably known as one of the toughest bosses in JRPG history, really. And I had to beat him the cheap method. I beat him fairly, but I beat him the cheap way. Um, it still took an hour and a half though to beat that boss. Super tough. Um, and yeah, like the Demi Fiend fight, man. Just if you want to watch videos of it, it's on YouTube. It's tough. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this game, despite the difficulty level. Digital Devil Saga 2. I don't know if I would rate it higher. I don't know which one I'd rate higher. I think 2 was a bit tougher. I don't know if I had as much fun. Like it's probably a close call. It had its points, but I don't know. I guess the first game had a charm that the second game just kind of didn't. Second game added a few things, but to the first game, but they're still fairly the same. I think I'd like the second game maybe a little bit less, but they're still very long. I could say both of them like easily like 60 hours or something. And yeah, also I beat all the secret bosses and everything. And super fun. So yeah, they're easily A tier games. Um, then we have Nocturne. Nocturne, I almost want to put that as S tier. Like I don't know, out of all these games, like pretty much all the SMT games I'm putting here, they're either A or S. Like I can't really decide where I want to put them. They're better than the Shadow Hearts games. Like to be honest, Shadow Hearts 2 is probably the only one that comes even close to all the SMT games. So Nocturne is known as like one of the toughest SMT games, and very dark story, and just I think it took me 90 hours to beat it, and I played it on normal, and I did everything, and yeah, loads of fun, but tough game, and I don't know, it's an experience. I never played it a second time. I played it once. I thought of playing it a second time on hard mode, but just never got far into it. It's these games take a lot out of you. You have to be prepared to be spending a lot of time playing and thinking about how you want to fuse the demons and everything. So I think Nocturne is SMT, even though like it's definitely a game for those that want to challenge. It's a masochist game, but it's fun. Like that's the thing about SMT games is like they're challenging, but they're fun. Like they know how to make a hard game interesting. Persona 3, probably A tier. I don't know if I liked it less. I think I liked it less than Digital Del Saga games. Some people say Persona 3 and 4 are easier than Digital Del Saga. The difficulty level is still rather high in Persona 3 and Persona 4. And it's got a little more of an anime influence, a little more of a pop influence, but it's still a serious game, still has a dark storyline. So Persona 3 had fun, maybe not as much. It just got kind of annoying sometimes with the difficulty. Sometimes you think some bosses are just overpowered, and you kind of wonder how am I supposed to beat them. And I had to grind for a few hours before fighting the final boss because you're just under leveled, and that can happen. Um, yeah, what I hated about Persona 3 and 4 is more of the micromanaging to get like a perfect ending. It's the social links, and I hate micromanaging that kind of stuff, and missables. I hate missable items, and with Persona 3 and 4, they just made it kind of annoying. Like you had to use a guide to make sure you didn't mess up, which is very annoying to do. Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, they just didn't have any of that. So Persona 3 just has some of that annoying stuff to it. And Persona 4 is pretty much the same thing. I think I might rate Persona 4 a little higher, but the battle, it's very similar. Persona 4, Persona 4, I actually might like a little more. I can't decide which one I would rate higher. So Persona 4 might be a little better than 3. Yeah, these games are all pretty closely tied. I think I like the Digital Devil Sagas a bit more than the Personas, now that I think about it. The Nocturne is like, it's a little higher. Like, honestly, these games, I almost want to put them in S tier as well. They're like super close to being S tier. So, yeah, I think this would be a fair. Yeah, this is pretty much it. I think this is how I would leave it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Nocturne is kind of like just a little better than the rest. I think I leave it alone in the S tier category and put these in like the rest in like super high A tier, very close to S tier. So that's it. So there'll probably be a few more videos like this where I'm just combining different franchises, and eventually I'll cover every game I've ever played.